Hey friends, welcome to Shigaraki. So today we are gonna see, what if Deku awakened the Timebreaker quirk? So before we start, check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive mature content. We will now proceed to the video. A bell rang in young Izuku Midoriya's junior high school. Izuku had an encounter with his childhood friend. Izuku didn't want to admit Katsuki Bakugo was his current bully. Izuku picked up one of his journals out of a vat of water outside of his school. Izuku had a habit of taking notes about everything around him. Izuku started walking home. This would take him a while because his mom's apartment was far away from the school he attended. As he walked home, he felt as if something in life was against him. See, Izuku lived in a world full of quirks. Superpowers that mutated into humans over time. 80% of the world's population had a quirk. Izuku was a part of the 20% that didn't have one. Izuku started walking through a tunnel of sorts. Izuku felt something touch him. In the next couple of seconds, Izuku realized he couldn't breathe. "Your body will be useful to me, kid," exclaimed a large slime-like villain surrounding him. Izuku clutched at his neck. With no prevail, Izuku's vision started to fade out. No, this can't be it, Izuku thought. All of his life, Izuku wanted to be a hero. A person who used a quirk to save people's lives. The villains surrounding Izuku started to laugh. Then, suddenly, a large gust of wind surrounded Izuku, and he was able to breathe again. Izuku's vision faded away again as he passed out on the pavement. Hey, kid," Izuku heard. He opened his eyes and saw something he's been wanting to see close up for a while. All Might, the #1 hero in the world, was standing above Izuku, waking him up. Izuku had been quite a fanboy of All Might. Fanboy is an understatement, kid. Izuku stood up and said, All Might. Even though Izuku knew exactly what he wanted to say, he still had some weird habit of stuttering. "The one and only, kid." All Might boomed back at him. Izuku started to tear up, a family thing in the Midoriyas. Anyone would assume All Might kneeled down to Izuku's level. "Are you okay, my boy?" All Might asked him. Izuku's throat ached a bit, but Izuku still nodded his head up and down, reassuring his idol. "Good, now I've got to get this villain taken care of." All Might picked up a 2-liter bottle of sludge, or what Izuku assumed was the villain. All Might kneeled down, ready to take off. "Wait," Izuku shouted. All Might looked back at Izuku. "I just wanted to say that. I've always wanted to be a hero like you, and I was wondering, can I be a hero without a quirk?" All Might looked at the teen and sighed. "Kid, being a hero means having to help people with great power and motivation. It's hard work. And I'm sorry to say this, but no, I don't think you can be a hero without a quirk." Oh, Izuku stood shocked. He'd known this the entire time. But he always thought that maybe All Might, the greatest hero, would tell him he could, in fact, be a hero. And just like that, All Might took off from the ground, leaving Izuku standing there. Izuku walked away with tears in his eyes. Boom! Izuku heard a loud explosion and knew what it was. A villain attack, somewhere downtown. Something in Izuku told him he should go to the site. Izuku started walking toward the explosion. For some reason, he felt like he had to. Izuku realized he was far away from it. Izuku slid his foot on the ground and Izuku saw cyan and blue electricity swirl around him, and he saw something strange. He zoomed past everything around him, and when it was over, he was at the villain site. Was that someone else's quirk or? Boom! Izuku looked over and saw the sludge monster from earlier. Wait a second, how does that add up? Izuku realized. When he asked All Might if he could be a hero, he dropped the bottle of sludge. Izuku straightened himself and looked to see who the sludge monster's victim was. Izuku saw a familiar face being strangled. Katsuki Bakugo. What? Izuku even stuttered in his mind. Izuku's legs moved without warning and a weird feeling ached up his spine. Izuku saw the cool-colored electricity. He knew now that this was his own quirk. Izuku seemed to teleport right up against the sludge monster. Izuku did the one thing he thought he could. Izuku threw up his own backpack a bit above the villain's eyes. A pencil fell out of his backpack and skewered the villain's right eye. The sludge monster tensed up and released Bakugo for a couple seconds. Bakugo took a deep breath and, "What the hell are you doing here?" he yelled at Izuku. "I don't know." My legs moved by themselves. Izuku was cut short when he flew back due to a sludgy fist. Izuku smashed his head into a nearby building and his consciousness faded away. Izuku woke up on a hospital bed. He heard the stereotypical sound of a heart rate monitor. Young Midori. Izuku's head snapped toward the sound. And there was All Might. Listen boy, I'm sorry for what I said yesterday. Izuku thought, I said you couldn't be a hero because of you being quirkless. Which clearly wasn't the case. All Might said as he dropped a stack of quirk registration papers on the table next to Izuku. Wait, hold on, Izuku was cut short by All Might, don't worry, I did my research. You appeared completely quirkless until that whole situation happened. Izuku sniffled. Tears. This might be a bit too much for you to handle, but I feel like I should tell you something. All Might uncovered his shirt, revealing his abdomen area. A large injury was there. It almost made Izuku puke. Pretty disgusting. No. I got this injury 5 years ago. Izuku cut in. Was that the toxic chainsaw battle? All Might smiled. You know your history, but no. That villain was strong, but not strong enough to faze me. The battle I'm talking about was covered under the wraps as much as I could have. All Might started coughing up blood and reverted to his normal state. The heart rate monitor surged immensely. All Might sighed and started, that injury I showed you limited my hero time. I can only retain my muscular form for 5 hours every day. 5 hours, Izuku thought. All Might started again, anyways, about my quirk. All Might smiled and locked eyes with Izuku. My quirk is named 1 for All. It allows me to power up my reflexes, strength, agility, and my flexibleness. It has been passed down through generations. I am the 8 holder of this quirk. I'm saying, it has to be passed down to someone soon. Izuku's eyes widened. No, he can't be talking about me, right? Young Midoriya, I am asking you. Will you be the 9th wielder of 1 for All? Izuku couldn't speak. Only tears came from his face. WWWHY. All Might cut him off, because I believe you have what it takes to be a hero. When that sludge villain attacked again after we talked, I was in the crowd watching that happen. Izuku's eyes widened even more. I stood there and watched it happen because I had drained all of my power. You bolted as soon as you saw young Bakugo was in danger. All Might put a hand on Izuku's shoulder. So, will you accept 1 for All? All Izuku could do was nod furiously. Good. Meet me at Dagoba Municipal Beach at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Izuku nodded, looking determined. I'll be seeing you. Izuku smiled and rested his head on his pillow. Things were finally going good. Izuku woke up bright and early the next morning. He was ready for anything. He made it to Dagoba Municipal Beach. And All Might was waiting for him. After 5 more months of training, Izuku made significant progress on his quirk. He dubbed it Flash. It had 2 different modes. Speed mode, and time mode. Speed mode allows Izuku to simply run very fast. It would get him from A to B as fast as he wanted to. It also increased his agility and awareness, so he was able to make decisions during running. Time mode allowed him to slow down time to a halt. He could walk around and interact with objects, and when he'd be finished with it, he could revert time to normal. Downside. Using his quirks of Izuku's stamina. Izuku had 5 months of training left, and he also had 5 months until the UA entrance exam started. Izuku began wandering around Tokyo as a means to discover the surroundings. The reason Izuku had been able to use his quirk the first 2 times was because he either knew his surroundings, or he was able to see where he was going. Learning about Tokyo could help him navigate. He also learned that speed mode would automatically avoid objects and people that were in his way. He also learned that, help. Izuku looked around and didn't see a single person around him. But then, Izuku looked into the alleyway next to him. A brown-haired girl, about the same age as him, was being held at gunpoint by 2 villains. Izuku's eyes widened as electricity started flowing around him. Izuku used time mode and slowed down a bullet traveling towards the girl's head. Izuku darted forward and caught the bullet as time started speeding up again. The girl flinched and fell onto the ground with tears in her eyes. Hey, the girl looked up. Don't worry. You're safe now, Izuku said timidly. Izuku used speed mode and punched one of the villains in the chest. Izuku used speed mode again. and jumped off a nearby wall and kicked the other villain in the back of his head. Izuku then felt a shock wave of pain and looked down at his abdomen. A bullet wound. Izuku collapsed to the ground as the girl ran towards him. And everything faded to black. Izuku's eyes opened and saw a familiar sight from 5 months ago, the ceiling of a hospital room. Izuku sat up and saw the girl asleep in a chair by his bed. Izuku's face started turning red. A girl visited me. The girl in question opened her eyes and saw Izuku sitting up. Her eyes lit up. Oh, you're awake. She stood up and looked at him. Thanks a lot for saving my life back there. I would have died if you didn't do anything. Izuku stared back stunned. For the first time, someone other than his mom cared about him. Hello. Izuku came back to reality. Oh, I'm sorry. You're welcome. Izuku stood up and looked at his wound. Oh wow, that's already mostly healed. Izuku mumbled out loud. Do you not know your quirk? The girl asked. Izuku said, I'm still getting used to it. It's kind of complicated. The girl responded, oh, okay. By the way, my name's Ochako Uraraka. Izuku had also forgotten until now to give an introduction. Hi Uraraka. My name's Izuku Midoriya. Ochako smiled at him and said, well, I hope we see each other again soon. Izuku left the room with Ochako and talked to a nurse. She said they were free to go. Izuku and Ochako both made it outside and said goodbye to each other, then they both started walking in the same direction. So I guess we live close to each other, huh? Ochako managed to choke out through the awkwardness. Yeah, I guess we do. Izuku said. Izuku then started again. This may sound a bit weird, but how long have you been living here? Ochako smiled and said, about 2 months. I came here to go to UA. Izuku smiled at her and stated, I'm also planning on taking the hero course. Izuku stopped. You are shooting for the hero course, right? Ochako snorted. Yeah. For the next couple minutes. They talked about their own situations. Izuku obviously let out some details about his. Ochako explained her story, with her parents and her quirk, and her apartment. They both stopped at Ochako's apartment building. Well, thanks for saving my life. Ochako said. Izuku then replied, no problem. Right before Ochako left, Izuku said, by the way, if you are ever feeling lonely, why? Oh, you could come over for dinner or something with me and my mom. Izuku's face started competing in a competition to look the most like a tomato. It seemed Ochako was also competing in the same competition. Okay, thank you. Ochako stammered out. Okay, CYA Uraraka. Izuku said, and Ochako replied, bye Midoriya. They both quickly walked away from each other. Little did they know, they were both smiling like gosh darn idiots. Ochako was happy because she finally had gotten her first friend after being there for 3 months. Also, the friend she made literally saved her life. And she had gotten invited to his house. She had been kind of lonely the past few months. But there's no way she would randomly show up at someone's house and pretend like she lived there. But she was happy nonetheless. Izuku was happy because he simply made a friend, for the first time in 10 years, and it was a girl. Obviously, Inko Midoriya, Izuku's mother, was very worried about him. She received a call from him saying that he was in the hospital, and he saved someone. She had mixed feelings. Are you okay? Inko frantically screamed as Izuku walked in. Yeah, I'm fine mom. Izuku replied looking worried. They talked a while about things and stuff, but Izuku never mentioned that he talked to the person he saved after they both left the hospital, much less that it was a girl. Well, Izuku kept raining with all might and showed significant progress. It felt like time flew by the next 5 months when it was finally time for the UA entrance exam. Also, Izuku was slightly confused as to why Ochako never came to visit him. All Might had gotten Izuku to eat his hair. Very scary event to Izuku, and Izuku was standing right outside of UA. Izuku walked past Katsuki Bakugo. Don't even bother trying, shitty nerd. Bakugo scoffed and walked away. Izuku straightened his back, started walking and immediately tripped. As he was falling, he was caught by a sudden force. Sorry, I should have asked you first. Izuku heard a giggle. Izuku's body was flown to an upright position and set down. Ochako's eyes squinted. Wait, Midoriya? Ochako questioned. Izuku responded, yeah. Izuku's body was weighed down once again and he was standing. Well, I hope you do good in the exam. Ochako exclaimed. Why you too? Izuku stuttered out. They both walked in different directions. Izuku had thought he did well in the written exam. But he knew that if he messed up the practical, he wouldn't get into his dream school. Izuku thought he was ready. He had just ingested one for all, but he still didn't feel anything. Izuku had done very well training Flash. He felt as if he finally had himself a good quirk. Izuku was standing with a big group of people, his age, waiting for the practical exam to start. Izuku saw Ochako within the crowd. Uraraka, hey. Ochako snapped out of her thoughts and looked at Izuku. Oh, hey Midoriya. Ochako waved. Hey to you. Izuku was cut off by a loudspeaker. Begin. Present Mike shouted. Everyone stood in front of the gate confused. You think a hero has a countdown in battle? Everyone at once started bolting into the arena. Run! Screamed Ochako as she ran into the crowd. Suddenly, a flash of lightning flew by her. Izuku was standing in the middle of the arena, about a fifth of a mile away from everyone else. Izuku saw a group of 3 two-pointers and he went to work. Izuku started by using speed mode to catch up with them. He then jumped up and used the momentum from his speed to punch one of the robots in the shoulder. He didn't know what to call it really, and regardless, he just earned himself 2 points. Izuku snapped his head to the other two. Izuku started up time mode and everything stood still. He walked over to one of the robots and broke open the electrical panel on the side of it. Izuku ripped all of the wires out of it as time started flowing naturally again. Izuku used speed mode to jump off a nearby building to build up momentum and kick the robot in the visor thingy. He still didn't know what to call it. So that's 6 points, he thought. A total of 6 seconds had passed while he was fighting the robots. To him, it felt like a minute. Izuku kept speeding around, earning himself a total of 40 points, 3 minutes into the exam, 2 minutes left. Present Mike shouted through the speakers. Izuku felt great he might actually get into the school we wanted to be in since before he could remember. Izuku got a few more points and saw Ochako, destroying 3 one-pointers with her. She mumbled as she touched the ground. Izuku was happy she was doing well. 1 minute left. Present Mike shouted. Suddenly, as if on cue, a large shake came from the ground. Izuku looked over and saw something emerging from the ground. The 0-pointer. Someone near Izuku stuttered. Izuku looked closer and sure enough, it was the 0-point robot. Izuku was tired from using his quirk so much and kneeled to the ground as the 0-pointer stepped closer. Izuku was about to stand up and walk away when, oomph. Izuku snapped his head back towards the robot's feet, and saw Ochako trapped under rubble. It looked like she was about to take an injury from the robot. Izuku used speed mode and instantly was trying to help Ochako out of the ground. Midoriya, Ochako questioned as Izuku was having trouble moving the rubble. Hold on, Uraraka. Izuku replied. He realized that the best way to solve this was to instead destroy the robot. Izuku jumped backwards and kneeled down. He started hoping, come on. Izuku's legs started glowing with a criss-crossing pattern in red overtook them. Soon enough, Izuku was flying upward toward the 0-pointer's head. He reeled back his fist and it started glowing. Izuku's teeth clenched as his fist made contact with the robot's head. The robot's head exploded with a giant crater in it. The 0-pointer started falling over, and explosions were appearing all over it. Izuku had destroyed it in one punch. Izuku started to tear up. Not because he was happy or sad, but because of pain. Izuku looked at his right arm. It was completely broken. Izuku's legs were fine, but his arm wasn't. He started falling to the ground at a fast speed, and within seconds he was going to hit the floor. As he was nearing the ground, he was preparing to land on his feet. I'll probably break my legs, but I have to try. The young teen had a very alarmed look on his face. As he was half of a second away from hitting the ground, someone slapped his leg. Izuku felt a rush of weightlessness throughout his body. And his fall decelerated. He landed on the ground and was fine, besides his arm. The exam time is over. Present Mike exclaimed. Izuku used speed mode and ran to Ochako. Are you okay, Uraraka? Izuku asked without a hint of nervousness in his voice. Single quote. Must be the adrenaline, Izuku thought. Yeah, but my left leg kind of hurts, and I'm pretty nauseous. Ochako was able to make out before she passed out from exhaustion. Recovery girl walked over to the two of them and said, "Bit of a crazy quirk you have there," she said to Izuku as she healed his arm. "Oh, you're recovery girl, thank you." Izuku fanboyed out. She smiled and looked at Ochako. "It looks like she's out of energy, I can't heal her." Recovery girl said, and continued, "She needs to rest, and you need to work on controlling your quirk better." Recovery girl looked at Ochako. "Does anyone here know this girl?" Izuku quickly replied, I kind of do." Recovery girl looked at him. "Do you know where she lives?" she questioned, and Izuku nodded. He knew what he had to do. 16 seconds later. Izuku was standing outside of Ochako's apartment, carrying Ochako. He would have gone to his mom's apartment, but he didn't want to give her a heart attack. Izuku's face was very red as he walked into Ochako's living room and set her down on the couch. Izuku got a bag of ice and set it on Ochako's forehead. Izuku ate down a glass of water next to her on the table. Ochako's eyes opened and she saw the familiar sight of her ceiling fan. "Oh, I never got to say thank you to him," she said sadly. Ochako sat up and felt something cold on her forehead. "A bag of ice. How would, oh you're awake," Izuku said. Ochako yelped as she flinched backwards. When did you Izuku cut her off. "Why you passed out at the practical exam arena so I brought you back here." Ochako looked at him stunned. "You carried me all the way from there to here," she exclaimed. "It took me 13 seconds. Uraraka." Izuku reassured her. She looked relieved. "Oh, I forgot about your quirk. I wouldn't want anyone worrying over me enough to carry me that far." Izuku looked at her and said, "Well, even if that wasn't my quirk, ISTILL would have probably." Ochako's phone timer rang. "Oh, I was going to make dinner now but I really don't feel like making anything right now." Ochako took a drink of the water. "Why you can come veer to me and my mom's apartment and have dinner with us, if you want." Ochako's face warmed up. "Really?" she replied. Izuku said, "Yeah, she wouldn't mind at all. She'd actually be happy I'm bringing a friend over." "Friend?" Ochako teased. Ochako cut Izuku off. "I'm just kidding, of course we're friends. After you saved my life twice now, and you carried me back to my apartment." Izuku felt relieved. "Thanks by the way, for doing those things." Ochako stuttered out. Don't mention it," Izuku replied. "So do you want to have dinner with us?" Izuku asked. I'd love to," Ochako answered. "A girl?" Inko asked as Izuku and Ochako's faces warmed up. Yeah mom." Izuku sighed after she embarrassed him. "Well, I'm glad you're here, miss." Ochako Uraraka. "Uraraka. I'm glad you're here," Inko said. "Thanks for letting me stay here." Ochako said. "Please, call me Inko." Inko pleaded. "Okay, Inko." Ochako replied and giggled shortly after. Inko planned katsudon for the special occasion. Izuku, Inko, and Ochako talked while the Midoriyas were making dinner. Then they all sat down to eat. "So you said you've only lived here for 8 months?" Inko asked Ochako. "Yeah, my parents paid for an apartment that I could live in while I'm going to UA." Ochako replied. "You've lived here alone?" Inko asked worriedly. Yeah," Ochako replied looking kind of sad. "Well, feel free to come here anytime you want to," Inko reassured her. Izuku was staring at his food blankly. "Honey." Izuku snapped back to reality and looked at his mother who looked worried. Actually, both Inko and Ochako looked worried. "I'm just curious about whether we got into U or not." Izuku pointed back and forth between himself and Ochako. "I'm sure you guys did great in the exam, dear," Inko said, smiling. He couldn't help but smile back. When they were all done eating, Izuku and Inko said goodbye to Ochako as she left back to her apartment. For some reason, Izuku had a weird feeling about her walking home. But that's probably because every other time he and Ochako had been at her apartment, Izuku had walked her there each time. A week passed by. Izuku was worried about his results in the UA entrance exam. He knew that Ochako scored a 35 in total. He knew that himself scored 52. Then the letter came in. His mom had burst into his room to frantically give him the envelope. Izuku sat at his desk staring at it. Come on. Just open it. He ripped the letter open and an electronic disc thing fell out of it. The disc started displaying a hologram. Is this thing on? All Might said out of the hologram. Why is All Might on a UA video? The kid thought. You might be wondering why I am in this video. Well, All Might was cut off by a hand coming in from the side of the footage. What? I need to get to the point. I need to do how many of these? All Might sighed. Well anyways, you scored 52 points on the practical. So it would seem. Izuku's face looked confused. You remember this girl, right? The screen flashed a picture of Ochako on it. Uraraka. All Might continued, she came by the other day and asked about you. She said you did some pretty heroic things before, during, and after the exam. Izuku's eyes widened. She said if there were any kind of rescue points. We didn't tell her, but yes, heroic actions would get rewarded. Izuku started tearing up. So you earned yourself 80 hero points, placing yourself at first place in the exam. He began fully crying. Welcome to your hero academia, young Midoriya. By the way, your class is 1A. Be there on Monday. All Might winked and the hologram turned off. Soon after, Inko was scared by a loud holler coming from Izuku-C on Monday. In fact, he couldn't wait. Navigating the halls of UA was pretty difficult. He didn't know if it was because the place was huge, or because it was a maze. When he finally made it, he opened the door to see something, or someone he was hoping to see. Ochako Uraraka. Midoriya. Deku. Izuku heard two different voices with different feelings about him being there. Bakugo was immediately in another conversation with a tall, dark blue-haired teen with glasses. Deku. Questioned Uraraka. It's a nickname. It's supposed to mean puppet, of some sorts. Izuku frowned. Well, I think it sounds like Dekiru. You can do it. She smiled as she said it. Well, you can call me that if you want. He was able to make out, despite his deepening red face. If you're looking to socialize, you're in the wrong place. A voice came from the door. Everyone in the class looked over and saw a man in a sleeping bag on the ground outside of the class. Be at the field outside in your gym clothes in 10 minutes. The man sat up and was about to walk away, then said, by the way, I'll be your homeroom teacher for your remainder at this school. This guy is a pro hero. Izuku thought as the man stumbled away. Sure enough, within the next 8 minutes, Class 1A was standing outside at the field. Well, the top scorer of the entrance exam was Izuku Midoriya. Please come here. As Izuku walked by, Katsuki shouted at him. How the hell did you? He was cut off by his homeroom teacher. With strength and luck, he answered Katsuki. My name is Shota Aizawa. If you forget that, you don't deserve to be here. Aizawa said. Normally I refer to characters with their first names. But some characters will have an exception to make them more recognizable. Izuku stood at the circle on the ground as Aizawa handed him a baseball. The rules are simple. Throw the ball as far as you can without leaving the circle, using your quirk. He put emphasis on the last part. People in Class 1A started whispering about being able to use their quirks in UA, because it was basically illegal to use them before high school. Izuku had already formulated a plan. He would start by using speed mode and run around in circles until he gained enough momentum. Then, he LD throw the ball while activating one for all in his pointer finger to boost the ball forwards. He stood on the side of the circle and activated his quirk. To everyone else, they saw a glowing swirly ing circle of teal and blue-purple electricity in the inside of the ring. Izuku swung his arm forward and threw the ball with one for all in his pointer finger. The ball flew out of everyone's vision. 26 kilometers. Aizawa said. All of Class 1A's jaws hit the ground. Are you reading it right? Said a semi-smiling pink-skinned girl. Aizawa deadpanned at her for a moment, then turned to our protagonist. You are free to sit down. Izuku quickly walked over and sat next to Ochako. How'd you do that? She asked him. I used the momentum from my quirk and threw it. Izuku didn't entirely lie, he just left out the part about one for all. Oh, is that the same thing you did when you destroyed that robot in the entrance exam? Ochako asked. Yeah. Izuku hadn't thought on how to explain that until now. Is your arm okay? She asked. He hadn't thought about that either. He looked at the thumb he used, and it was fine. Yeah, looks like it. Izuku replied. You will all be put through a series of tests. Each of you will get a score for each one. The person with the lowest score will be expelled. Class 1A's eyes widened. No, he can't, can he? Most of them thought in some way. Izuku had done okay on most of them. Up until the standing long jump. He had an idea. He would activate speed mode right before he jumped and kick off the ground with it while also using one for all, hopefully giving himself a boost. Izuku's legs loosened as they bent down. He activated his quirks and was standing on top of a UA faculty building. He looked back and saw the field a good kilometer away from him. He simply ran down the side of the wall and back to the field. Well, it seemed you scored 0.8 kilometers on the standing long jump. Class 1A was surprised once again. Izuku obviously did well on the dash test. He scored himself 0.00000065 seconds. The endurance running was basically the same thing. He didn't use his quirk that time though. The test was called off after 5 minutes when he, Bakugo, and some boy with 2 colors of hair and a scar on his face wouldn't stop. Well, it seems that Mineta Minoru scored last place. Please, pack up your things. The kid was crying as he left the field. Please note that most of you would have stayed in, even if you scored last place. Most of you have potential. Aizawa said as he motioned everyone to come back inside. The rest of that day, and the day after was pretty chill and boring. But the next day, today you will be doing more practical training. Meet with All Might outside in 15 minutes. Aizawa said as he zipped up his sleeping bag and lied down. Class 1A was outside in 12 minutes and met up with All Might. Hello. Today we will be doing weapon recovery based procedures. You will be paired up as villains and heroes. Here are the teams. All Might proceeded to list out the groups and the rules of the game. Izuku was paired with Ochako. I'm glad I'm teamed up with someone I know. She said to him. Team A, heroes, will fight Team D, villains. Izuku knew he was Team A, but who was Deku? Katsuki screamed as he continued, you're going to lose. He said calmer, but still loudly. Well, at least Izuku knew who he was up against. Katsuki Bakugo. And Tenya Iida. Wait, couldn't instantly win if I ran up and touched the bomb. He said to Ochako. Well, I guess you could, huh? Ochako looked kind of disappointed. Almost as if she wanted to have a challenge. Izuku admired her. Young Midoriya. All Might boomed. The running part of your quirk can only be used in a 10-foot radius around you. This is so everyone in your matchup will be challenged. Izuku nodded and smiled. I guess we will be challenged. He said to Ochako. She smiled back at him. 3 minutes left to plan. All Might said. Okay, can you lift yourself up with your quirk? Izuku asked his teammate. Yeah, for about 10 seconds, before I throw up. He thought for a moment. Okay, I'll jump up to the 3rd floor window, then you could jump up to me and I could catch you before you get sick. Izuku planned. Ochako smiled and replied, that would work. Izuku thought for a moment and said, I know Bakugo. He'll split off from Iida and try to find me. He paused for a moment then continued, after you regain your stamina from getting to the 3rd floor window, you could jump up to the 4th floor window and hide on the windowsill. After Bakugo passes by you, going to the floor below you, you should pop out and go up to the bomb. I'll take care of Bakugo. Izuku mumbled. Ochako stared at him for a couple seconds and then said, did you just come up with that? He was confused by the question at first and then responded, yeah. All Might signaled the start of the round, as Izuku bent his knees and activated his quirk. He learned that with just the right movement, he could use momentum from his speed to jump upwards. Normally, he would have run up the side of the wall, but rules are rules. Izuku shot up to the 3rd floor window and looked down at a flying Ochako. He caught her and pulled her inside. She took a breather, then jumped out the window and flew to the 4th floor. She caught on the window and hid. Bakugo passed by her and ran down to the 3rd floor. Izuku's predictions were scarily accurate. Ochako snuck out and walked up to the next floor. Deku. Bakugo shouted as he saw the green-haired teen. Bakugo shot himself forward and tried to punch Izuku in his face. Our protagonist slowed down time using time mode. He walked over to Bakugo and activated one for all, at a lower level this time, and punched his chest in the side. To Izuku, the punch did nothing, but as time streaked mal again, Bakugo flew to a wall and slammed into it. He stood up and grabbed what appeared to be a pin on a grenade attached to his arm. Bakugo released the pin as a giant explosion came from it. Izuku couldn't react fast enough and was caught in it. Izuku woke up inside of a closed-off room with a hole in it. He figured he was blasted into there by Bakugo. He stood up and felt pain on the front and the left side of his body. He figured 30 or so seconds had gone by since he was hit by the explosion. He started running normally to the higher-up floors. Iida and Bakugo had both cornered Ochako inside the room with the bomb in it. The room was about 40 yards long, meaning neither Ochako nor Izuku could get to the bomb in a quick amount of time. Iida started powering up his engines while he was laughing maniacally. He really was enjoying his role. Bakugo's palms started sparking. Ochako threw a chair at Iida, making it weigh about 100 pounds more than normal. It slammed into him as he fell down. Ochako released the chair, and she saw Bakugo running towards her. His palm stretched out as he faced it towards her. She couldn't think of anything to do. Die, Bakugo said as a flash of teal and purple lightning struck him and sent him flying into a pillar. Izuku was standing in front of Ochako. Come on, he shouted as he started bolting towards the bomb. Even without using his quirk, Izuku could still manage around 17 miles per hour, 27 kilometers per hour. Iida was about to catch up to him when he flew up to the ceiling. Izuku simply ran forwards and touched the bomb while Bakugo was stuck watching him. Heroes win, All Might shouted through the speakers, sounding a little too excited. Release, said Ochako as Iida fell to the ground and landed on his feet. We did it, Izuku shouted, running towards a smiling Ochako. Yeah, she screamed. Bakugo was yelled at by All Might for making Izuku pass out. Recovery Girl healed Izuku's everything, including something he was pretty bummed about. A fractured arm. He damaged it when he saved Ochako from Bakugo. He was hoping the breaking bones part of his quirk was just a one-time thing. Aizawa had told Class 1A that they would be going to the USJ sometime soon. It was surprising he told them something ahead of time. Like normal, Izuku and Ochako took the train together. That battle was intense. Ochako exclaimed. Yeah, it was interesting to see Iida's fighting style. But we didn't really see that much. Izuku noted. Yeah, I guess you're pretty interested in that stuff. Ochako mildly teased at him. Izuku pulled out one of his journals from his backpack. Yeah, I guess I am. Ochako stared at Izuku flipping through his notebook. Wow, those are really detailed. Izuku smiled and flipped to 13's page. Oh, 13's my favorite hero. I'm kinda shooting to be a rescue-based hero. Ochako admitted. Yeah, she's definitely a great hero. My favorite hero is obviously All Might. Ochako nodded. By the way, thanks for saving me 3 times now. Izuku looked at her confused. The 3rd time was when you punched Bakugo. He was about to. Izuku cut her off. You're welcome, but I can't keep doing this. Ochako looked at Izuku. You can come train with me if you're looking to strengthen yourself or your quirk. Izuku just realized he invited a girl to his house. And naturally his face started going red as they both got off the train. Yeah, I think I might. I've been trying to look for a place to train a while now. Ochako told him as they neared her apartment. Well, feel free to come by at any time. Izuku was able to make out of his blushing face. Oh, here, Ochako said as she pulled out her phone. We should probably get each other's numbers. Both of their faces were very red. Okay. Izuku quickly typed her number into his phone. See, yeah, Ochako yelled to him as she ran up the apartment stairs. Izuku used speed mode to get back home. Izuku was lying down on his bed smiling towards the ceiling. He had just gotten a girl's phone number, and she agreed to come over at some point. He was ecstatic. See. Hako was also happy because she had a really good friend whom she could trust, and she had been invited to a boy's house to train her quirk, which she knew she wanted to do. The next day at UA was another uneventful day. But Izuku was happy that they would be going to the USJ soon. He'd heard about it a lot when researching things about heroes. Everyone in Class 1A sat down when Aizawa walked in. You will all be picking your class president, and your vice class president tomorrow. Today, you will have the bell to socialize with your peers. Don't expect this to happen again. Aizawa said, then fell down in his sleeping bag. We should introduce ourselves now, so I'll start. My name's Tenya Iida, my quirk puts engines on the back of my shins, and allows me to power up movements with my legs. Iida introduced himself. I'll go next, my name's Momo Yaoyorozu, and my quirk's creation. It allows me to create objects out of any part of my skin. Yaoyorozu said, my name is Suyu Asui. But, please call me Suyu. My quirk is obvious, Karo, frog. Suyu said, my name's Eijiro Kirishima, my quirk's, harden. It allows me to harden my skin and make it impenetrable. Kirishima introduced, my name's Hantasiro. My quirk's called tape. It allows me to shoot tape out of my elbows. I'm Denki Kaminari, my quirk's electrification. It allows me to electrocute things. And then, I'm Jiro Kyoka, my quirk is earphone jack. I have earphone jacks coming out of my ears, giving me really good hearing. She said, my name is Yuga Aoyama, I have an 8-inch hole where my belly button is supposed to be. It can shoot out a fabulous laser beam out of it. My name's Rikido Sato, my quirk lets me power up my body by eating sugar. And this is Koji Koda, his quirk lets him talk to animals. He's really shy. Koda scratched the back of his head. I'm Mashirao Ojiro, my quirk gives me a tail. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm better than all of you. Most people already knew Bakugo's name and quirk. I'm Mina Ishido and my quirk is acid. It allows me to seep acid out of my body. I can control the acidity of it. Mina said, and then, my name is Mezzo Shoji, my quirk is called Dupli Arms. It allows me to create a web of arms, out of my arms, however I please. I'm Fumikage Tokiyami. My quirk is Dark Shadow. It adds a sentient being to me that can physically interact with objects and talk to people. Tokiyami added, I'm Toru Hagakuri, do I even need to explain my quirk? Said a floating uniform with floating gloves next to it. Everyone shrugged. I guess I'll go next. I'm Ochako Uraraka. My quirk is called Zero Gravity. It allows me to augment the gravity on objects. I'm Izuku Midoriya. My quirk's called Flash. I can slow down time around my body and move faster than the blink of an eye. I'm Shoto Todoroki. My quirk is Ice. I can make ice in any shape I want in a certain radius around my body. Shoto said last. That's everyone, right? Questioned Mina. I believe so. We should socialize more to find out who we are going to vote for. Suggested Iida. And so, everyone did just that. After about 5 more minutes, I forgot to mention, you cannot vote for yourself. Aizawa said as he went back to sleep. He liked doing that. Deku, I think you'd make a good class president. Ochako smiled at Izuku. Really? I'm thinking of voting for Iida. His personality seems right for it. Plus, I need more free time for myself. He said, knowing that both of the jobs probably required time and effort. Ah, right. Ochako said after thinking about his words for a moment. I guess I'll vote for him too. Izuku looked at her and said, vote for however you want to. He smiled and walked out of class as the bell rang. The rest of that day was normal. Izuku had gotten good at traversing Tokyo. He was able to memorize most of the city. He was currently speeding through the city. The cops didn't really care that much, to be honest, as long as he wasn't causing trouble. As he was moving, he was able to he had trouble using Flash and One for All at the same time. His legs had to activate for him to jump higher, or run faster. It would be useful if he could just power up his whole body. Izuku stopped as he realized. Whenever he used Flash, it activated across his whole body. But what if he did that with One for All? He bolted to Dagoba Municipal Beach. Izuku stood still in the middle of the beach. Because he had just finished cleaning it up, the amount of people visiting it was slowly rising, but it was still pretty unpopulated. But he was still definitely happy with the progress he made here. He started powering up One for All throughout his entire body. His skin had a criss-crossing pattern of glowing red marks over it. All of a sudden, the pattern faded away. Cyan electricity started emitting from his body, as all of his skin started glowing. Izuku was able to tell it was about 5% of One for All. He started running, without Flash, 48 miles per hour, 77 kilometers per hour. Pretty good. He wanted to test running home and back using both of his quirks. He readied his legs and activated. Full cowling, he decided to call it. He activated speed mode, and was at his home. It took him 0.5 seconds to run 12 miles 19 kilometers. Holy shit. Izuku didn't curse much, even in his head. Izuku instantly ran back. In total, it took him 2 seconds, and most of it was him swearing in his head. It was the day to decide the class president, and vice class president of Class 1A. Most people got 0 votes. Izuku got 4, which was scary, but he convinced a lot of people to vote for Iida. Iida had gotten 8 votes, and Yaoyorozu got 6 votes. This made Iida class president, and Yaoyorozu vice class president. Izuku trained the next couple days with both of his quirks. Because of the very slight healing factor of Flash, he could get to 10% of one for all without major pain or damage to his body. Class 1A was going to the USJ the next day. And he was excited. Uku started off the day by eating his breakfast. He got his shoes on and left his mom's apartment. He met up with Ochako on the way to their train. They were both excited to go to the USJ. I heard 13's gonna be there. Ochako said excitedly. Izuku smiled. He knew her favorite hero was 13. They both walked into the classroom and sat down. The rest of Class 1A was also excited. Change into your gym clothes. And meet me outside in the parking lot. Aizawa abruptly said in the midst of everyone talking. Class 1A filed out of the room and eventually made it outside. Aizawa ordered everyone on a bus. And they started moving towards the USJ. Everyone was relaxing. Until, Midoriya, I've never seen a quirk like yours, Karo. Tsuyu told him. Yeah, how does your quirk work? Kirishima followed up. Izuku couldn't find any way out of this, so he started explaining it. Well, it has 2 different modes. Speed mode, and time mode. Most of the people on the bus quieted down and started listening to him. When I activate speed mode, I'm able to run to any place, as long as I think of it in my head, or I'm able to see it. He paused for a moment and gulped. Time mode lets me slow down time. I can move around normally and interact with objects. If I were to punch an object while time is slowed down, it would store the energy. If time sped up again, the object would release all of the energy stored in it. Okay. Didn't have to explain one for all. But there's more to your quirk, right? Izuku snapped his head towards Ochako. Well, he paused for a moment and stared at her. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, I trust you. She reassured him. Thank you, Izuku said, relieved, but unnerved. His face was growing red, and so was hers. The bus stopped outside of the USJ. And the class walked in. It was a huge, dome-like structure. It's 13. Izuku heard next to him. He smiled. Hello, I'm 13. I'll be guiding you through our facilities here. And giving you each a situation to deal with. A portal opened around 60 meters behind her, and 3 people came out of it. A man with blue hair and hands attached to his body, a floating purpley mist with yellow eyes. And a man in all black clothing. Those are villains, Aizawa said as he was standing in front of his class. Class 1A flinched. Villains. They got in here using some sort of teleportation. It seems to be the quirk of the purple mist person. Suddenly, more portals started opening, and more, lower-tier villains started jumping out of them. Kurogiri, execute step 2. The man with blue hair calmly told his associate. Portals opened around all of Class 1A, as they were teleported randomly throughout the USJ. The only people remaining were Aizawa and 13. The man in black clothing shot 2 pieces of tape out of his palm. The pieces of tape hit the 2 teachers. The tape wrapped around their bodies separately, and they were subdued. Their entire bodies were covered in the tape. Except for their head. Their mouths were covered also. The man also thought to cover up Aizawa's eyes. The 2 teachers were leaning against a wall. Ochako felt dazed. She got herself off the ground she was just passed out on. I'm on a boat. She looked around. Not good. She screamed in her mind as she saw villains surrounding the boat. They seemed to be the lower-tier villains from earlier. Uraraka. Ochako snapped her head toward the voice she heard, and saw Tsuyu. We have to think of something to do, Karo. Okay, I think I have an idea, but I'll probably pass out after it's done. Whether I do it right, or not. What is it, Karo? Suyu quickly asked her. I think I'm able to lift up the boat, and if it lifts up high enough and I drop it, it'll cause a mini tsunami. She formulated. Suyu nodded and motioned Ochako to give the plan a try. Come on, I can do this. Ochako kneeled down and pressed all of her fingers to the floor of the boat. She instantly felt exhausted. The boat slowly started rising out of the water. It's working, Karo. Suyu commented. Her personality wasn't really one for exclamation points. Ochako's stomach growled, and not because of hunger. The boat they were standing on was a solid 15 feet above the water. She yelled, release, as she fell down, unconscious. Her eyes opened and she was on a shore. She looked around, and saw the villains from earlier. All asleep on the sand. Uraraka. She was startled by the voice and looked over. Suyu. Ochako stood up. Good job taking care of the villains, Karo. Suyu smiled. Thanks. I think our best plan is to try to meet up with some other students and go to the entrance doors. Ochako theorized. The two started roughly making their way to the entrance, trying to find people on the way. Iida. Okay, we have Hagakure, Ishido, Todoroki, Ojiro, Jiro, and Kaminari. Also no bad injuries, right? Iida had counted everyone he had found so far. He gained a nod from Todoroki. Our best plan is to go to the entrance. Ojiro told them. That makes sense. Iida said as he started jogging toward the doors that they entered through. Is that, Uraraka and Suyu? Kaminari said. Everyone else looked at what he was staring at. They saw Ochako and Suyu waving at them. Looks like it. Jiro replied and waved back to the two. As they met up, they looked around for more students. After searching for a while, they had no luck. They all walked over to the entrance of the USJ. Those are the villains, Mina loudly whispered as she ducked down. There's students tied up there, and Aizawa and 13 too. Toru said, honestly afraid. They seem to be tied up in some sort of tape that covers everything on their body except for their head. Also, their mouths are covered up. Aizawa's eyes are tied up. Probably so he can't erase that guy's quirk. Ochako pointed at a villain dressed in all black clothing. I bet if he erased it, the people tied up will be freed. Kaminari excitedly said, as if that was a plan they should follow. I see Shiro, Kirishima, Bakugo, Yaoyoruzo, Aoyama, Tokiyami, Aizawa, 13, Shoji, Koda, and Sato, Karo. Suyu slowly won here except Midoriya. Todoroki said. They all started listening into the villains. Yeah, that blonde kid with the spiky hair gave me some trouble. The man in black clothing said while smirking. Yes, good job Kato. The man with hands attached to himself said. Will we initiate step 3 when all of the wannabe heroes get here? Shigaraki. The purple fog thing said. Shigaraki nodded. We really shouldn't be giving away our plan when we have some bratty eavesdroppers listening in. The freed 1A students shivered, as they heard a sound behind them. They were all knocked unconscious. They all woke up next to the rest of the students. All of them were tied up, and resting on the wall next to the entrance doors. Ochako's eyes slowly started opening. She barely heard them say, don't worry, we'll use the Nomu next time, Shigaraki. Kurogiri said, I really felt like killing All Might today. Kato said, sounding disappointed. Ochako straightened her back, fully awake. One left. It's the All Might wannabe brat. Unless those dumbasses took care of him, he's gonna be here soon. Shigaraki said. All of Class 1A immediately realized who he was talking about. Izuku Midoriya. Give it 10 minutes. Whether he's here or not. We'll start step 3. Shigaraki heard all of the muffled screams. Do you brats want to know what step 3 is? Well, we'll kill some of you. Then we'll release the rest of you to tell everyone. And strike fear in the world. He said with a sinister smile. A loud crack of cyan lightning whipped in front of them as a figure seemingly teleported with it. Izuku. Izuku's eyes opened. He instantly noticed his hands were strapped down to the arms of the chair he was sitting on. His eyes started slowly scanning around the room. It was dark, with a single, bright light pointed straight at him. He looked around the room more. He noticed people standing in the shadows. The people slowly started walking towards him, into the light. Villains. Izuku thought as he started trying to bust his hands out of the straps he was tied to. Boss told us to take special care of you. They all started laughing. One of the villains had an extendable and flexible spike protruding from one of his palms. The spike instantly started flying towards him. Time mode. Time slowed down as Izuku started breathing heavily. The sharp metal was about a meter away from him. He remembered something. He could store energy into an object while time was slowed down. Then when time started going normal again, the object would release all of the energy at once. Izuku rapidly started moving his hands. He was storing energy into the straps. After what seemed like 10 seconds, time started flowing naturally again. The straps flew off of his hands as he ducked down. The spike landed on the chair, where his head was moments ago. He looked up and analyzed the situation. 3 villains. I'm too exhausted from overusing flash, so I have to resort to one for all. Izuku felt completely sore. He knew he couldn't activate full cowling without throwing up, or passing out. Flashback. Yeah, that one was scary. Toru said. Well, another battle I had recently involved young Midoriya, and young Bakugo. All Might paused for a moment. Izuku started having memories. Oh, the sludge villain, right. Kaminari said. All Might nodded. Yeah, it was so cool how you changed the weather with that punch. Mina yelled excitedly. Huh, Izuku questioned. Shouldn't the biggest All Might fanboy know? Ochako teased. Actually, before I performed the punch, Midoriya was already knocked out. He never saw it. Izuku looked up for a moment. Change the weather, huh? Flashback end. Izuku remembered and channeled one for all into his thumb and pointer finger. He flicked his fingers towards the group of villains. The flick caused a disruption in the wind pressure, and sent a giant gust of wind through the air, toward 2 of the villains. They were both blown back and sent flying into one of the walls. 2 down. Izuku screamed inside his head. Izuku was fortunately smart enough to know Newton's third law of motion, and he punched one of the walls with one for all. The resulting force sent him flying toward the remaining villain. He extended out his leg and hooked the enemy on the shoulder. They both flew to the ground. Izuku sat up and started punching the villain's head, slamming it into the ground multiple times. The villain passed out, with blood coming from his nose. Our hero slowly stood up, while breathing heavily. He instantly kneeled down again and clutched at his waist. Blood. Izuku could see what looked like a stab wound in his lower left waist. Looks like the villain got him one last time. He slowly stood up again, while using the wall as a support. The villain said they had special orders to deal with me. I can only assume that means everyone else had an easier job escaping. Still, I have to see if they need my help. Izuku stumbled out of the building he was in, barely awake. He saw his classmates sitting on the side of the wall, with the A-class villains from earlier. Wait, they're not sitting there. They're tied up there. He felt a shiver down his spine. Izuku's eyes widened. That's everyone in Class 1A. He hid behind a tree close by and started eavesdropping, still gripping to the knife-like wound on his waist. Do you guys want to know what Step 3 is? Well, we'll kill some of you. Then we'll release the rest of you to tell everyone, and strike fear in the world. Shigaraki said. That's enough. Izuku yelled through his heart as he activated speed mode, despite his exhaustion. Everyone stared as Izuku flashed in front of them. He was only standing there for a second when Kato shot a piece of tape at him. Izuku screamed as he activated time mode. He felt pain this time. I guess whoever this tape hits will be tied up. The villain who shot this piece of tape out is probably immune to it, and the Misty villain probably won't be affected by it. So that leaves the man with the hands, and the blue hair. Izuku grabbed the piece of black tape and patched it up against Shigaraki. He felt the pain getting to him and time slowly started speeding up again. The tape guy covered Aizawa's eyes, which means, he moved and crouched behind Aizawa. Time started flowing normally again for Izuku. Shigaraki immediately was covered in the tape. Urogiri noticed this and teleported him away. Kato and Kurogiri instantly looked around for Izuku. Use your quirk on the man in black clothing. He whispered. Izuku ripped off the tape covering Aizawa's eyes. Against his better judgment, Aizawa listened to the problem child. His eyes darted around for Kato. Once he saw him, he used his quirk on him. As Kato's quirk erased, everyone who was previously covered in tape was released. Including Shigaraki, who was in a bar somewhere. All of Class 1A, including the teachers, started rushing towards the villains, screaming. We have to retreat. yelled Kato. Kurogiri sighed and portaled them both away. A lot of the students started raising their fists and hollering. "We did it!" Ochako excitedly yelled. Then she screamed, not in excitement, but horror. Class 1A looked at what she was walking towards. Izuku was clutching at his wound, lying on the ground. Blood all around him. "Deku! Midoriya!" More people called out his name as his vision faded out, and so did the voices. 16 hours later. It had been a big rush. Izuku had been rushed to the UA hospital, as it was equipped, and the closest. All of the goons were arrested. News report. Urs had invaded the students' and teachers' privacy, asking meaningless questions. And now there she was. Sitting next to Izuku, crying. Ochako sighed. She rested her head on his bed, and fell asleep, while holding his hand. Hours later, Izuku's eyes opened, and he looked around. He definitely recognized the ceiling he was looking at. "I'm in the hospital. I don't remember much of what happened at the USJ, but I hope everyone's alright." He felt something warm on his hand. Then he looked down. Uraraka. Ochako was leaning, her head on the right of the bed, was sitting on a chair, and she was holding his hand. Izuku shifted his body slightly. And she started waking up. "Deku," Ochako said while she pulled her head off of the bed. "Is everyone okay?" he asked her. As she was not expecting him to be awake, she was surprised. "Deku," she yelled happily, but she looked at him again, and noticed something was wrong. "I'm holding Deku's hand." Her face went red. Izuku was staring right at her. "Shish." He slowly pulled her own hand back to her side. "Is everyone alright?" he phrased again, also with an increasingly red face. Ochako tried getting all of the weird thoughts out of her head, and she replied. "Yeah, you got the worst of it," she said, holding back tears. Izuku noticed something. "Your eyes are red." Ochako cupped her hands and covered her face. "You've been crying, Uraraka," he said as he sat up and put a hand on her shoulder. She had some explaining to do. "Well after ya were put in here, I thought I should wait for you to wake up." Izuku looked at the clock, and then the calendar. "Ochako, did you stay here overnight?" He had used her first name. She thought it was a mistake at first, but he used it on purpose. She slowly nodded. "You've been here for 20 hours. Izuku yelled at her. Tears started rolling down her face. "I'm sorry." She paused for a moment. "I was so worried. I didn't want you to wake up alone, and I was scared because at the USJ there was blood all around you. You took care of all the villains, you." She was cut off by a hug. They both stayed in that position for a couple minutes. "You said I got the villains?" Izuku asked. She nodded. "Yeah, you saved everyone," Ochako said with a small smile. He smiled back. "Do you know how much longer I'll be staying here?" "Yeah, one more day," Ochako said. Izuku got her to get up and go home. She told one of the doctors of his awakening. And they finished the second part of his surgery. He woke up after the surgery, saw a familiar face. All Might, in his skinnier form. "Holding up, young Midoriya?" he asked. Izuku nodded. "Well, you're not getting expelled," which was a hard decision for Aizawa to make. He smirked. "He said you did use your quirk illegally, but it was technically under his supervision. And he said you did mainly cause the ending of the attack, and if you hadn't been there, casualties would have happened." All Might smiled. "I'm proud of you, my boy. But please be more careful next time." Izuku stared at him for a second. "Next time?" he asked. "Hopefully not. After they saw your injury, they decided they would be constructing dorms on UA campus." The number one hero replied. "The dorms will not be used. Unless another villain attack concerns us," All Might said. He's saying it as if there will be another villain attack. But hopefully those won't be used. Their concern is that since this attack was in the first month of school, there might be another one. Both of the users shivered. "I talked to the doctors, you'll be released from the hospital in 4 hours. School starts the day after tomorrow. Giving you 1 day of free time after today," All Might said as he left the room. The next 4 hours were very long. After getting released, Izuku went back to his mom's apartment. They both cried for a while, and he eventually got to his room. He tried remembering the USJ, but all that came to his mind was what happened afterwards. Ochako had stayed overnight to make sure he was safe. He really did appreciate it, but he also felt bad making her stay for so long. He also called her by her first name. Izuku did the best thing he could think of doing, and he texted her. He'd done it before, so why did it feel so different this time? They had previous messages. He read through them quickly, and typed out a text. Midoriya. Hey, I never got to say how much I appreciated you staying with me in the hospital. Thank you, but please don't feel obligated to do it again. He waited about an hour, and got no reply. Knowing that Ochako usually texted back within seconds, he had an idea. I should go check if she's fine. This isn't weird, right? I'm just making sure she's alright. I mean, we planned on training together at some point, so maybe I could ask her to do that tomorrow. He got outside and started running towards Ochako's apartment. Thanks for watching, said, while scanning th.